I spun the bottle to play the kissing game and watched it land on my sister. Now I didn't want to kiss my sister, so I invoked the rule we'd established and gave my unlocked phone to the person on my right. Brian started scrolling my texts and laughing, and I was going beet red, but then he got to my camera roll. He saw a photo of a bloody knife, and the laughing immediately stopped. He kept scrolling and found more photos of rope, a body bag, and finally a picture of his little brother through the window. I went pale, because Brian's brother had mysteriously died a few months ago, and even though I had no idea how these photos got here, it now looked like I was the killer. I tried to explain I'd been set up, but the room was already silent, and Brian's eyes had gone black. What the hell is this? He stood up and shoved me in the wall. I put my hands up to say I didn't know, and that's when someone pulled out their phone to call police. I screamed no, but then Brian ripped the phone from their hand. I have a better idea. He turned and left the room, and that's when I remembered something horrific. Brian had brought a gun to the party intending to shoot bottles out the back. I was shaking and begged someone to believe I was innocent, but everyone had backed away. Brian came back in with one hand behind his back and started walking towards me. I stepped back, but he got closer and pulled out a knife. Everyone screamed as he raised it over his head. "This is for my brother." He swung, but someone tackled him last second, knocking the knife away and pinning him down. "Don't do anything stupid, please." But Brian wasn't listening and kept reaching for the fallen knife and trying to get up. I looked over and noticed my phone still on the floor. I picked it up to look where these photos came from and noticed they'd been saved to my phone 40 minutes ago. The only person who had my password here was my sister. I looked up at her, and she was the only one not panicking. I grabbed her arm. "Did you plant these photos?" She nodded immediately. I went red and raised my voice. "Did you kill Brian's brother?" Everyone was suddenly staring at her instead of me. She turned green like she was sick and opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, Brian's voice echoed from behind. He'd managed to stand up. "So one of you two killed him, huh? Well, I'm about to find out who." He started walking out, but this time towards the room where his bag was. Everyone went into panic, and that's when my sister blurted out as loud as she could. It was Brian. Brian killed his own brother. My jaw dropped, but I wasn't sure if I should believe her. She explained she witnessed him do it and took the photos as proof, but when I asked why she never went to the police, she stammered. I was too scared in case he found out." The whole room was divided, but then seconds later, Brian returned with a gun. The safety was off, and his eyes were red. He raised it at me, and I clenched my teeth, bracing for impact. But somebody from behind got him just in time. We pinned him down and took out his phone and found photos of his brother's death time stamped from that night. I spun the bottle to play the kissing game and watched it land on my
The heavy dirt above would pour in, meaning it would fill the space in seconds.
Yeah, you can't dig up. You gotta dig down. Let me explain. All right, obviously, if you dig up, the dirt's just gonna fill the coffin. No good. You're gonna have to dig down. Pop a hole in the coffin, then immediately start peeing. If you add liquid to dirt, it shrinks because it becomes more compact. Once the dirt gets loose, just simply start stomping it to increase the hole size. That's when you can dig up through the top, because once you do, the dirt will just fall into the hole you made with your pee. Guys, come on. This is like grade 1 level knowledge. It's a wave, and you're in an airplane. I mean, let's think about it realistically here. As soon as you see the wave, just head to the nearest emergency exit, open it up, hop onto the plane. You're then going to want to take both the jet engines, move it to the back of the plane. Once you do that, remove the wing, remove that little tail fin thing at the back, and then remove the pilot. This will turn the plane into a submarine. You can just cut through the wave and then dive underwater. Like, I'm low-key starting to get angry. I have to explain simple stuff. Oh, Cthulhu, of course. A lot of people asking me what to do in this situation. Here's a few options. Option 1, when the bear gets a hold of you, just moan. The bear will then back away because that's just mad awkward. Option 2, when it approaches, suffocate it with your legs. That'll incapacitate the bear fully, allowing you to leave. Option 3 is to fill the cave with methane. Once it's full, activate a lighter. This will incapacitate the bear fully. Guys, all of these options are super easy. Come on now.
I was giving my dad one last chance to show up for me, and I picked the father-daughter dance to do it. My mom saw me with my pink dress and shook her head. Don't get your hopes up. He promised he'd come to your graduation too, and you cried for days when he didn't. I nodded because she was right, but he texted saying, I'll be at the dance with your favorite flowers, daisies, and a pink suit to match. So I decided to believe him and headed out the door. At the dance, every girl was spinning with her dad, but I was still waiting for mine. A chaperone knelt beside me. Is your dad coming, sweetie? I texted him fast, and he wrote back, running late, almost there. So I planted myself by the door and watched it. Then the host called out, 10 minutes till the last dance. My heart dropped, and I texted him again, where are you? 3 dots appeared like he was typing, then vanished. I was left on red. The last song played while I stood alone, feeling the same way as graduation. Then my phone buzzed. Mom, I'm outside. My throat tightened because now I had to tell her she was right about him. But when I got in the car, she was crying and grabbed my hand. We have to go, right now. It's about your dad. I know where he is. My hands shook the whole drive because I'd never seen Mom like this, and she wouldn't tell me where we were going. Then she pulled into the hospital, and I ran in before she'd even parked. A nurse walked us down a hall, and I stopped cold in the doorway. My dad was in the bed, wrapped in bandages, the torn pink suit still half on him where the paramedics had cut it open. The daisies were on the tray beside him, crushed flat. He saw me, and his eyes filled up. I'm so sorry, he choked out. On the table next to him was his phone, screen spiderwebbed. One message sat open, never sent. Almost there, I'd never leave you alone. The typing stopped because that's when the car hit me. He reached for the daisies with a shaking hand. I didn't want you to feel alone for one more minute and break my promise. I was giving my dad one last chance to My daughter Callie pushed her breakfast away and crossed her arms. My health teacher, Mrs. Grant, said breakfast is just extra calories and we don't actually need it. I put my coffee down. That isn't true, honey. Skipping meals makes it harder for your brain to focus at school. She pulled a worksheet out of her backpack and slid it across the table. See, she said if we eat too much, we will get fat. I picked the worksheet up and read it and felt my stomach drop because as a registered dietitian, I knew that everything on it was dangerous weight loss advice that could really hurt kids. Callie grabbed her bag and ran for the bus without touching her food, and I reached for my phone. Mrs. Grant picked up on the second ring and started talking before I could finish my first sentence. I have been teaching health for 15 years and I know what I'm talking about. I told her the worksheet suggested eating habits that could genuinely hurt children, and her voice went sharp. Are you a teacher? No, but I am a registered dietitian and I work with patients every day who are dealing with permanent damage from this kind of advice. She hung up on me. The next morning, Callie pushed her breakfast away again. Yesterday, Mrs. Grant said that girls who skip breakfast have more energy and better focus. I had heard enough. I grabbed the worksheet, printed a full clinical breakdown of every dangerous claim on it with medical sources, and walked into the principal's office without an appointment. The principal read every page I put on her desk without saying a word. Then she called Mrs. Grant in and slid the worksheet across to her. Can you tell me where this information comes from? Mrs. Grant looked at the worksheet and crossed her arms. I'm just teaching what I know works. I've lost 10 pounds following this advice. The principal fired her because she had just been teaching weight loss strategies she had read in magazines from the 90s. The next morning, Callie came downstairs and pulled her breakfast toward her. We have a new health teacher and she said we are getting new books for health class. I handed her a fork. Good, now eat your breakfast. My daughter Callie pushed her breakfast away and crossed her arms. The day after my sister Maggie got engaged, she made me her maid of honor, then sent me the bill for her entire wedding. Here are the venue costs. Thanks for handling the payment. I signed the venue contract that afternoon, my name on every line. The photographer, the florist, the caterer, every deposit came to me the same way, with a heart emoji and a thank you. We used to plan our weddings on her bedroom floor when we were kids, and somewhere in our 20s, she stopped calling. Signing those contracts felt like buying my way back onto that floor, so I signed everyone. At the dress fitting, she pulled the seamstress aside. Get her something that hides as much as possible. I paid for the dress and told myself she was just stressed. Then I showed up to her apartment with the cake samples I had paid for and heard her on speakerphone before I knocked. I only made her maid of honor for the money. I'm dropping her right before the wedding so she doesn't ruin all the photos looking like that. My hand froze on the doorknob, then I took a deep breath and knocked. Maggie smiled the second she answered. So, I've been thinking you'd be more comfortable as a regular guest. My photos need a specific look, so hopefully you'll understand and do just this one thing for your sister. I looked at her perfectly contoured face and felt something snap, but I just smiled. Totally, I understand. I told her I needed to process the change and walked straight to my car while she kept smiling behind me. When I got home, I spread every contract across the kitchen table. The venue, the photographer, the florist, the caterer, my name was on all of it, not hers. The last thing on the table was the cake sample receipt, and I remembered being 8, telling her I'd bake her wedding cake myself someday. I picked up the phone and called the venue first. I need to cancel a booking under my name. The woman asked if I was sure. Maggie wanted me to be a regular guest, and regular guests don't pay for the wedding. I'm sure, I said. One by one, I started dialing. A week later, my phone rang. The venue says we have no booking. The The wedding is in 2 weeks and nothing exists. I told her calmly that regular guests don't pay for weddings, so I'd canceled everything. You're jealous. That's what this is. You're uninvited. Do you hear me? Uninvited. I reminded her there was no wedding left to be uninvited from, and she hung up. Then the refunds came in. $26,000 back to my card. I sent her a screenshot of the balance and a text. For the photos, she got married in her backyard, in front of a folding table and a string of dollar store lights. The cake was from a grocery store because she didn't have a sister to make her one anymore. The day after my sister Maggie got engaged, she made me her maid of honor, then sent me the bill for her. My best friend dragged me towards the roller coaster that looked like it was falling apart. "We're riding this!" I laughed. "Are you freaking crazy?" But she hauled me onto her shoulder before I could finish my sentence. "You need to learn to stop thinking so negatively." She dropped me into the carriage and my hands trembled while I checked my harness was secure. I checked hers, but she swatted my hand away. "Relax, nothing's gonna happen." She left her harness loose. Our carriage started moving, and the first climb was actually fun, until the track climbed into the upside-down loop, and everyone in our carriage had their hands in the air as we started to flip upside down. Suddenly, the train ground to a dead stop. The harness cut into my shoulders. Blood rushed to my head and my hair pointed at the pavement. Everyone started screaming except my friend beside me, grinning ear to ear. She turned to me, beaming. "Isn't this incredible? Aren't you glad I made you do this?" I screamed. "Leah, your harness!" She rolled her eyes. "Relax. Enjoy the exposure therapy. After all, I paid $500 for it." My jaw dropped. "What?" She nodded like she was proud. "I paid the woman who runs the roller coaster in the booth to stop the carriage midair, just for you, because I love you." The train jerked again, and my best friend's harness popped off her shoulders. She slid straight out and I caught her wrist before she cleared it. Her legs swung over nothing, and her smile was now replaced with her screaming at the top of her lungs. She'd spent the whole climb telling me to stop thinking so negatively, and now she was relying on the one person who always did. "Don't let go," I sighed. "I'm not. I never do." The crew took 20 minutes to crank us level and bring us down. On the way home, she quietly put on her seatbelt and checked mine was on properly too. I smirked. "Relax, nothing's gonna happen." She whispered, "You can never be too sure." My best friend dragged me towards a man walked in with a smug grin and his chest out while I was bartending, and just by his demeanor, I could immediately tell he was going to be difficult. He sat down and literally flicked the menu at me, smirking, "I'll have a margarita." I forced a smile and started making it, but as soon as I poured the lime juice, he snapped his fingers. "Too much lime juice. Make it again." I was annoyed, but the customer is always right, even if he's a jackass, so I grit my teeth and redid it. I slid the drink in front of him and forced another smile. "$20, please." He grinned and pulled out two $10 bills. Then he threw one of them to one end of the bar table and the other towards the other end. He sipped his drink with a cocky grin. "There's your $20. Go get them separately." I clenched my jaw, wanting to scream but holding it in, as I walked back and forth between the two ends collecting the money, my hands shaking with rage. I tried just avoiding him, but then he tapped my shoulder. "I'm done." He pointed to his empty glass. "Another margarita. And this time make it correctly on your first try. It's not that hard." He crossed his arms and leaned over the table looking right at me. I was furious inside, and that's when I got an idea. I smiled. "Of course, sir, but this time, payment first, please." His jaw dropped in rage, but he just pulled out two more tens. He threw one to one end, but this time threw one on the floor under him. "There, payment first, get it separately." I calmly walked around and leaned under his chair to get the money while he laughed. But when it was time to make the drink, I set the empty glass down in front of him. Then I poured the green lime juice on the table in front of him and the orange liquor on the floor under him. He shot up and his face twisted. "What are you doing?" But I said nothing and just poured the tequila onto his pants. "There's your drink, go get it separately." He started shaking in rage and demanding a refund, but I told him no. I gave him his drink just like he gave the money, separately. A man walked in with a smug grin and his I followed the crowd that was gathering around the skate park, and when I got to the front, I saw a small boy that looked exactly like my daughter Michaela. I looked closer and saw she was wearing a black wig, and the paper number taped to her chest read Michael. The banner over the halfpipe read Boys Skating Competition, 14 and under. I gasped because she was disguised as a boy, and every part of me wanted to drag her off before the other boys found out and destroyed her. But when I lunged forward, someone in the crowd held me back, and I was forced to stand back and watch. The first boy dropped in and slammed into the concrete, peeling himself up with bloody elbows. The boy ahead of her bailed, helmet skittering across the concrete, and I pictured hers going the same way. Two dads beside me were running their mouths. A girl couldn't last one run on this. One laughed, and the other called it a fact. I clenched my fists in anger. Michaela was rubbing her hands together, and part of me started hoping she'd win just to shut them up. The speaker crackled. "Next up, Michael." She pulled her hood down, tightened the strap, and rolled to the edge. She dropped in. She hit the first ramp so high the crowd gasped, flipped the board, and landed it. Trick after trick, higher than any boy that went before her, and the park lost it. They all clapped and chanted, "Michael, Michael, Michael." One of the dads from earlier chuckled. "That's how a real boy should be." But As the boys hauled her onto their shoulders, her helmet caught on someone's hands, and suddenly, the wig got torn off. Her black hair spilled out, and the boys went still, as they realized they'd been cheering for a girl the entire time. Michaela raised the wig over her head like a trophy and walked over to the banner as the entire crowd stared at her in shock. She pulled a red marker from her hoodie to write "and girls" above the sign. This time, I screamed her name, her real one. I followed the crowd that was gathered. I walked into the classroom after Summer completely bald, and everyone immediately started whispering. I lunged for my chair, and while waiting for class to start, I saw girls lean together and whispered while staring at me. She just got cancer treatment, so we have to do it to her today. I want to make her cry. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I kept my head down and waited for class to start while tears filled my eyes because I thought for sure I was being bullied. And as soon as the bell rang, I headed for the bathroom, the one stall where nobody could bother me while I ate, but it was too late. The girls from earlier grabbed me, and one of them smiled. "You're coming with us." They pulled me into the bathroom, and another girl swung her backpack around, unzipped it, and I squeezed my eyes shut and braced for whatever she had planned. But that's when I felt her drop something light into my hands. When I opened my eyes, I looked down and saw a wig. The girl who'd started the whispering from earlier was beaming, hands pressed together like she'd been waiting for this. "We heard you couldn't afford one while you were in the hospital," she said, "so we pitched in." Another girl was already unzipping a makeup bag. I was so happy my eyes were watering, and she held up a lipstick while I pulled the wig on with shaking hands. "Do you mind? I just think this shade would look so good on you." So I sat down by the sink and let the three girls I'd spent all morning dreading make me beautiful. The girl from the classroom whispered again, "I told you we were gonna make her cry." I walked into the classroom after Summer completely bald, and everyone immediately. My dad gripped my wrist and dragged me into the jujitsu gym for the 7th time this week. But when he tried to show me a flip, I crossed my arms and just sat down. "I'm not doing it. This is useless." In response, he flipped me on my back and pinned my shoulders to the ground. "You never know when you're gonna need it. Now practice your bridge and roll." I stayed on the ground, my jaw clenched with anger because this was stupid. I started thrashing wildly, not doing the move at all, and screaming, "I hate you, Dad. Get off me right now." His face went pale, and he immediately got up. I stormed out while the whole gym watched and threw the guy he'd bought me in the bin. That night, Dad came into my room and set his black belt on my bed. "I'm not saying you need to be like me, but it would be good to—" "Shut up, Dad. I don't care about your stupid jujitsu," I interrupted him and threw his belt at him. He looked at it in his hands, then suddenly went quiet. I didn't even care as his lip quivered and he turned around, but then he suddenly groaned. "Dad, are you okay?" He was clutching his chest and wheezing, and his legs gave out as he fell backwards. He crash-landed with his full weight on top of me, and the air instantly left my lungs. I gasped because his left arm had started going purple, and I realized he was having a heart attack. I tried to reach my phone, but he weighed 200 pounds and was suffocating me. I began panicking and losing air as his shoulder was jammed into my throat. I tried hammering my fists into his back but couldn't get him off, and I thought we were both going to die. That's when I remembered the bridge and roll he'd taught me. I trapped his arm and blocked his foot with my ankle to gain leverage, and pushed my hips up just like he'd said. Dad flew up, and I immediately twisted my body, rolling with him. I gasped for air as I had gotten out, but Dad was still foaming out the mouth, so I grabbed my phone and called the ambulance. At the hospital, Dad slowly opened his eyes, and I immediately clutched his hand. He teared up. "You saved me," but I shook my head. "No, Dad, you saved us both by making me learn jujitsu." We hugged. My dad gripped my wrist and dragged me into the jujitsu